إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي नहीं वो मरना छेगा صلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله اللهم صل على محمد أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا ولي الله أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير الأعمال حي على خير الأعمال الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم اجعل قلبي وارا وعملي سارا وعشقا ورزقي دارا وولاد أبرارا واجعل قبر نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم مستقرا وقرارا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم صل على
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي كان موجودا قبل حدوث الأشياء ويبقى بعد فناء الأشياء تفرد بالأولية والقدم ووسم كل شيء ما فناء بالأداء والقدم وكما قال عز شأن كل شيء هالك إلا وجهه وكل نفس ذائقة الموت وقال كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام سبحان من لا يخفى عليه اختلاف النيات ولا يعزب عنه ماس العباد في الخلوات سبحان الله الذي منه خلقة العباد وإليه المعاد فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يره نشهد أن لا إله إلا هو الملك الذي لا ينازع في ملكه ولا يضاد في حكمه يعذب من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء ويرحم من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء تعذيبه المسيئين عدل وعفوه تفضل ونشهد أن محمدا سيد المرسلين وخير المبشرين والمنذرين صلى الله عليه وآله الهداة المهديين من ركب سفينتهم نجا واهتدى ومن تخلف عنها ضل فغرق وهوى أوصيكم عباد الله بالاعتصام بالتقوى فإنه حبل متين وعروة وثقى فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين لله شهداء بالقسط ولا يجرمنكم شنآن قوم على ألا تعدلوا اعدلوا هو أقرب للتقوى واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون صدق الله العلي العظيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I begin by advising myself and all of you to practice the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as is the best of provisions. The verse that I recited is from Surah Ma'idah, ayat number 8. Last week's discussion was in regards to the Tawheed and the concept of monotheism as seen in Islam. And in this series, continuing, today's discussion will be on the second usul-e-din, and that is the Adalat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the concept of justice that we associate as part of our usul-e-din. Now, of course, some of these discussions might be very shallow for my educated crowd, but nonetheless, it is important for us to reflect on these values as we may have learned them in our madaris when we were younger. And hence, it is sometimes misunderstood, the concept of Adalat, especially when it comes to the concepts of Imamat and Nubuwwat and Qiyamat. It might be easier to understand and comprehend. But when it comes to the concept of Adalat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sometimes it is misconstrued and misunderstood. And in fact, other adyan, they don't even have the concept of Adalat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not just other religions, but even within Islam, the other sects do not necessarily believe in the concept of Adalat. And I'll explain what do they do when it comes to speaking that God is just, especially under such ayat that, one of them that I shared with you today. So this ayat number 8 from Surah Ma'idah, very well-known ayat in regards to the concept of Adalat and justice, as twice the word ta'dilu or i'dilu is used in it. Allah says, "O you who have faith, be maintainers as witnesses for the sake of Allah of justice. And ill feeling for a people should never lead you to be unfair. Be just, be fair, and that is nearer to taqwa." So twice, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is exhorting us to do what? To deal with people fairly, to be just with them. Do not cause injustice and stay away from unjust. Similar to this verse, with a slight difference in ayat number 135 of Surah Nisa, we find the following: stand up for justice and be witnesses for God, even if it is to the detriment of yourself or your parents and your relatives. So when it comes to Adalat and when it comes to justice, even if it's going against you, even if it's going against your family, you should always be wary of it, and you should not neglect justice, even if it's something which will end up what? End up costing you. So that is very straightforward, but these two ayat are close. The difference between these two verses is that this verse commands, don't let hatred and enmity deviate you, but the verse of Surah Nisa says, don't let interest and attachments deviate you. Meaning what? Justice is so critical that sometimes the hatred and enmity will make you go against justice, and sometimes the love and the interest will make you go against justice. Love and interest would be in relation to your relatives, your family members, and hatred and enmity would be towards those who are not your kinsmen, those who are not close to you. So you see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in both of these ayahs, Surah Ma'idah 8, Surah Nisa 135, is speaking about the two ends of the concept of justice. So the second part of Usul-e-Din discusses the Adalat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Adl is one of the beautiful attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sifat jamali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This sifat is connected to Iman on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our belief that there is God on one end, and then from the other end it is connected to Ma'ad, the day of judgment and resurrection and Qiyamah. The Adalat that Allah created all of us, that He had the sense of creating, you look into the riwayat as to why did God create. Kuntu kanzan makhfiyan, I was a hidden treasure and I wanted to be recognized, so I created. That's one of the riwayat that you find in Hadith Qudsi. Why did Allah create mankind? He said, Kuntu kanzan makhfiyan, I was a hidden treasure. I wanted to be recognized, so I created the khalq. The creation were created. When they came into existence, now they're going to start recognizing me. So that's one reason that is mentioned regarding why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us. But then the Adalat justifies or determines that once you're created, there should be Qiyamah. There should be a day of judgment. There should be resurrection. There should be an outcome. There should be, a sila that is given to you after having lived. That is only based on the rationale that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created in all of mankind. Similarly, this adalat is connected to nubuwwat and imamat from one end. You see how this adalat sort of serves that middle portion between the two ends, like centralized position, that it is connected to nubuwwat and imamat. Allah created us. He wanted to be recognized, so He created us. There will be day of judgment where we will be tested. So what is His adalat then begs? Adalat then demands that He should guide us as well. He can't just create us and leave us be, and then on the day of judgment test us, and then throw us into Jahannam, for example, for not being in line. No, He's going to make sure His adalat determines, or adalat demands, that He sends hadiyan barhaq, guides, who will come and guide us, tell us this is right, this is right, this is wrong, this is wrong, stay away from this, stay on this path, and that'll be that needle which will keep us on the right path. So all of these things are then what? Tied into the adalat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Similarly, He sent prophets and imams for guidance. Adl of Allah is the key in justifying His azab and thawab. So the wrath and the reward that we come to know of, that will be justified with what? With the adalat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The same way people establish the justice system in this world, you're proven wrong in the court of law, you face the punishment. And if you're not proven guilty, then of course you don't get any punishment. That is the reward for it. Similar is the case when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us, He sent guides for us. Comes the day of judgment, what is going to happen? Adhab or reward. These are the two things. There's no middle stage in between the two. Okay, don't give me adhab and don't give me reward. Just keep me somewhere in between. No, there's no such thing. Either you're going to be the recipient of adhab, na'udhu billah, or you're going to be the recipient of the reward of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no third or middle way in this regard. Don't say, well, where's moderation? Why is only this or that? No, that's all there is. These are the only two destinations that we can come and think of. So, when I said in the beginning that this concept of adalat exists only in our madhab, other religions don't even talk about this adalat. In fact, some of the other sects don't even believe in the concept of adalat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is the history of that? Well, the history of the issue of adl is a group of Ahl Sunnah called Ash'ari do not believe in this principle. So, you have the groups Ash'aira, Mu'tazila, Maturidiyya, and all these other names that you find. And then you have the Shia madhab and you have the Sunni madhab. Shia madhab follows the ideology and the kalam of Shia. But the Ahl Sunnah, there are different ideologies that exist. So you have the Ash'aira school, you have the Mu'tazila school, you have Maturidiyya school, you have other schools that came into existence. And they speak about what? They speak about the concept of our relationship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, without getting into the details of it, I'll explain. So the group of Ahl Sunnah called Ash'ari do not believe in this principle. They do not deny the justice of God. So keep that in mind. They don't say Allah is not just, but they just don't believe in adalat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't have it in the list of usul-e-din as one of the usul to be what? One of the asl to be adalat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. While they don't deny the justice of God. So how do they put a parallel? But they say that God is the owner of the universe and does whatever He wants. Even punishing the good and rewarding the bad. It's the amal of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is based on His justice. So if someone is good, Allah punishes him, fine, He can do that. If someone is evil, Allah rewards him, fine. That's the ayn adalat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala according to this school. The belief of this group is that husn qub, good or bad, does not exist in relation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's actions, and whatever He does is good. Now, of course, it's flawed from various aspects. That's why our madhab does not believe in this. We have categorically denied that, and we have a concept of adalat, stand alone concept of adalat independently. The main motivation, why do they come up with this sort of understanding that they don't have the concept of adalat for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they do believe that Allah is adil, and then whatever He does, good or bad, that you associate with Him, is all according to the adalat and the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is the motivation behind this? Motivation for the emergence of this belief was their predicament was about predestination, jabr and tafweed. That there is a fate for everyone that is written. Because the Ash'ari were die-hard proponents that insan is majboor. And you and I are completely forced into doing what we have to do. Now they had to justify this question. How a person who is forced in his actions is punished, and now is it compatible with the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So now you're going to make insan majboor. Insan cannot do anything but whatever is written for him. And then on top of that, Allah is going to punish him for doing that. How are you going to go ahead and put a parallel between the two? So they had to deny the divine justice by saying whatever God does is just, and that's it. This will, of course, later answer many questions pertaining to some of the worldly events that unfold in front of us. Man-made disasters, natural disasters, persecution and killing of innocent people, good people struggling while evil might be flourishing apparently, and all that stuff. All of these questions can be answered just by looking at this concept of adalat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So I just gave an example of the Ash'ari school and the thought behind it. Oh, that's not our focus of discussion. Our focus of discussion is what our belief is in this regard. The Shia, inspired by the Quran and the words of Ma'sumin, introduced God's justice as one of the tenets of Islam. Amirul Mu'mineen in Nahjul Balagha, the short saying number 470, says beautifully, At-Tawheedu Allah tatawahhamahu wal-adlu Allah tattahimahu. First of all, the eloquence of the kalam of Amirul Mu'mineen, and then how in one sentence he beautifully explained the concept of Tawheed and Adalat. He said Tawheed is that you don't take him in your illusions and thoughts, because everything that comes into your illusion is what? Limited. So don't bring him. Your wahmo gaman cannot, encompass Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And justice is that you don't blame him. Don't associate any negative sifat to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have a set of sifat that are mentioned. There's certain things that just cannot be associated with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Kind of like, salt. Salt is inherently is what? Salty. You can't remove that from salt. Otherwise it won't be called salt. You can't call salt to be sweet. Although sometimes we do say this salt is not as, I don't know what the word would be, strong as it should be, or I'm not feeling it because maybe you've lost your taste bud. But, we have that concept. Similarly is the case when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The causes and roots of oppression. I said these will be answering some of the questions that we have and we see around us. Why does someone oppress others? So the concept as we're speaking is about the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, adalat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we need to look at the opposite. Why? تُعْرِفُ الْأَشْيَاء بِأَزْدَادِهَا. Things are understood by looking at the opposite. How do we recognize it was daytime? Well, we saw the night. And so we were able to compare. That was night, this is day. We're able to see dark, and we're able to see light. We're able to compare the opposites, and we're able to get a better understanding. Someone who doesn't have eyes, hasn't seen from the very beginning of his life birth. Tell him right now it's nighttime. He's like, I don't know what that means. Right now it's daytime. He said, I don't know what that means. Cannot comprehend night and day because he hasn't seen it. But once you experience night and day, then you're of course say, well, yeah, I can compare the two. One is bright, one is dark. That's how you put a comparison between the two. Simple. So what are the causes and the roots of oppression? Why does someone commit the act which oppresses other? 4 reasons are mentioned. Number 1, necessity. Someone commits injustice if he is in need to achieve things and can achieve them through oppression. There's so many examples. Some of these tyrant rulers, they saw it was a necessity for them to do this in order to, for example, expand their empire. It was a necessity for them. We need to go there. We need to expand. There was a necessity that begged, they attacked, and then they captured. And it still is something which is happening around us. Second reason why someone, or the cause and the roots of oppression, ignorance. Someone commits injustice who does not know the viciousness and the ugliness of injustice. He does not know that this is even haram or it's wrong. When you don't know something is wrong, you're going to go ahead and do it. If a child does not know that the fire burns, what's he going to do? Put his hand in there, trying to grab it. Looks very funny. I want to go and see if I can grab it. Doesn't know. He's ignorant of the evil of the fire or the harms of the fire. So what's he going to do? He's going to go ahead and grab it. Similarly, this person who does not know the ugly nature of injustice and the viciousness of it is going to do what? He's going to commit this crime. Third, ethical vices. Someone commits injustice whose heart is sick with hatred, enmity, envy, selfishness, and arrogance. Why do you see some of the injustices around the world? Because some people hate the other people. They just don't like the other group. There's this white supremacy that exists. There's this, other type of bigotry and discriminations that exist. What are the causes of these discriminations? Sometimes it is hatred. Sometimes things that they've seen from other groups of people. You always see this bias. You always see that they are prejudice of other group. So right away, that creates this envy, that creates this hatred, that creates this arrogance and selfishness, and that gives them the sense that we are, for example, better than others, and therefore that leads to what? That leads to injustice. Number 4, helplessness and incapacity. Someone commits injustice who is unable to ward off the harm and danger from himself, and there's no other way to achieve the goal but to oppress others. Danger is coming toward me. It's a prime example. I'm just learning how to swim. I'm in the swimming pool. I'm unable to keep my balance. I'm drowning. What am I going to do? Grab someone who's near me. I'm going to use them as the shield to go up. I am right now in need of saving myself. I'm going to disregard the other person. I'm going to try and see. Even if they are drowning, I'm going to try and use them as shield to bring myself up. Happens. You've seen that. Kids are learning how to swim. This is how you teach them how to keep your balance. So this fourth reason is that sometimes you see danger coming to you. The only way to ward this danger off for yourself is what? To go ahead and do injustice to someone else. Lay the blame on someone else. I can give you hundreds of examples of that. In our daily lives, we see that all the time happening. That we, how quickly, lay the blame off to someone else because I don't want that landing on me. Did you see that happening? No, I didn't see it. Did you do it? No, of course not. Even though I was the one who did it. I'm going to go ahead and blame it on someone else. That's injustice. We do this injustice all the time. We just only think of injustice as killing someone, genocide and whatnot. That's the concept of injustice. But how we are on regular basis doing this injustice to our family members, our community members, our society, our siblings, our spouses, and so on and so forth. Lay the blame, and that's injustice. So every injustice that happens in the world is due to one of these factors: necessity, ignorance, ethical vices, and incapacity. And therefore, if it were not for these factors, there would be no oppression anywhere in the world. And none of the mentioned factors can be associated with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you don't associate any of these factors to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that lands him being what? Adil, and gives the concept of Adalat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 1 was necessity. Allah is what? Absolutely self-sufficient. He doesn't need anything. Number 2 was ignorance. Allah is all knowledgeable with unlimited knowledge. Third was ethical vices. Allah has all sifat-e subuti and sifat-e jamali that you find in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those sifat-e salbi don't even come close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And number 4, the incapacity. No, he has infinite and limitless power. He can do whatever he wants to. It's not that he is under some sort of pressure to do certain things, like you and I sometimes go under pressure to do certain things. No, there's no such thing for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when these 4 things don't exist for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that makes him what? That makes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be just. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So in the world today we see injustice all around us. It is either due to the man-made necessity, aka greed, ignorance, people behind oppression lack moral standards, and at times they might even feel compelled that this is something which they are called out to do, and they have to do so. I have full, lengthier discussion on this concept of adalat from the kalam of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wassalam. But inshallah, I won't go into it because I won't be able to do justice to the concept of justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I'll leave it off to inshallah at another time. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq and ability to be able to understand the adalat, ilahiyya, adalat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then in turn implement that adalat ilahiyya into our own lives. In Nas al-Hadith, wa ablagh al-mu'idha kitabullahi a'udhu billahi min shaitanir rajim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wal asri innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilu as-salihat wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحليم الكريم غافر الذنب وقابل التوب وهو الغفور الرحيم. سبحان من سبق رحمته وغضب ووسط اليدين بالرحمة. سبحان من لم يكلف نفسا إلا دون وسعها وعفى عن السيئات ولم يجاز بها. سبحان من لا يزداد ولا معصي العباد إلا كرما وجودا وعلى كثرة الذنوب إلا عفوا وصفا. نشهد أن لا إله إلا هو العطوف على العباد بجوده والعفاد والمذنبين بحلمه. ونشهد أن محمدا نبيه وحبيبه سيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين بعثه رحمة للعالمين. ألا قد أمركم الله في محكم كتابه بالصلاة على نبيه وحبيبه فقال تعليما لكم وتشريفا للصفية إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وعلى إمام المسلمين وقائد الغر المحجلين أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى سيدة نساء العالمين وبذة خاتم النبيين سيدتنا فاطمة بنت رسول الله صلوات الله عليها وعلى الحسن المجتبى وعلى الحسين الشهيد بكربلاء وعلي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي عليهم الصلاة والسلام. اللهم صل على مولانا صاحب الزمان ما هي آثار البدء والطغيان هادم ابنة الشرك والنفاق حاسد فروع البغي والشقاق صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آبائه الكرام اتصلت الليالي والأيام. اللهم عجل فرجا وسهل مخرجا واكحل ناظرنا بنظرة منا إليه واجعلنا من المستشهدين بين يديه وتفضل على أمرائنا المؤمنين بمزيد التوفيقات وازدياد الإقبال وعلو الدرجات. اللهم افعل بنا ما أنت أهله ولا تفعل بنا ما نحن أهله بجاه محمد وآله المعصومين صلوات الله عليهم أجمعين. اللهم من يذكر فكره ذكرا إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم. هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين وآخرين منهم لما يلحقوا بهم وهو العزيز الحكيم. ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم. مثل الذين حملوا التوراة ثم لم يحملوها كمثل الحمار يحمل أسفارا بئس مثل القوم الذين كذبوا بآيات الله والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين. قل يا أيها الذين هادوا إن زعمتم أنكم أولياء لله من دون الناس فتمنوا الموت إن كنتم صادقين ولا يتمنونه أبدا بما قدمت أيديهم والله عليم بالظالمين. قل إن الموت الذي تفرون منه فإنه ملاقيكم ثم تردون إلى عالم الغيب والشهادة فينبئكم بما كنتم تعملون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون. فإذا قضيت الصلاة فانتشروا في الأرض وابتغوا من فضل الله واذكروا الله كثيرا لعلكم تفلحون. وإذا رأوا تجارة أو لهوا انفضوا إليها وتركوك قائمة قل ما عند الله خير من اللهو ومن التجارة والله خير الرازقين. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمد. الله أكبر. ربنا افرغ علينا صبرا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين بجاه محمد وآله الطاهرين. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
الله ملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. تسبيح جناب فاطمة الزهراء سلام الله عليها. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. واستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. All of us together. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة لابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Jummah Mubarak to you all. Let us recognize the sponsors for today's Jummah lunch. It is the family of Dr. And Sister Shanaz Nasser and Dr. Nasser's family. Please recite Surah Fatiha for their deceased relatives as well as yours, including Marhuma Leila Roshan Ali Rafiq, Marhum Roshan Ali Rafiq, Marhumins of Nasser and Nur Muhammad family, and all the people who lost their lives in Gaza. Surah Fatiha. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Sallallahu Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Inshallah, very quickly, some of the announcements, upcoming programs here in Masjid-e-Ali. Tomorrow we will be celebrating the birth of our fifth Imam, Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salatu wassalam, along with our 10th Imam, Imam Ali al-Naqi alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma sallam. Imam Baqir's wiladat is 1st of Rajab, Imam Ali Naqi's wiladat is on 2nd of Rajab. We're combining the two programs, inshallah. Tonight will be the last day of the month of Jumadul Ula, Saturday being the 1st of the month of Rajab. This month is upon us, and of course, the celebrations that will be done in the month, for example, Jashn Maulud Kaaba, which will be a grand celebration, inshallah, the announcements for that will be made. But this program tomorrow, Saturday, January 13, Rajab 1st, will be starting at 7 p.m. with Salatul Isha, followed by Manqabats in Urdu, and then followed by speech, inshallah, towards the end. That is as far as the upcoming program here. Tonight also, we are launching a program for our kids, young ones. We've been doing the Friday night program for the kids ages 5 to 12, 6 to 12 for the past few months now. Now, inshallah, it'll be more organized under Quran Academy from January 12th till March 8th, 7 to 8 p.m. Quran, and then 8 to 9 p.m. Futsal. And of course, now we've had in our gym the basketball hoops have been installed, so kids will be taking advantage of that. Ages 5 to 7, building a connection with the majestic Quran through stories, and ages 8 to 12, reciting the majestic Quran with tajweed and discussion on its akhlaqi wisdom. So that session starts from January 12th, and inshallah it'll continue till March 8th, just prior to the beginning of month of Ramadan, Shahr Ramadan. So these are 9 sessions, and the fees is $60 for this, of course, to cover the cost of the gym that will be inshallah used. So if you need any help in this regard, if you want to reach out, you can reach out to me, you can reach out to Brother Zain Ali, and as well as Brother Hassan Kazim. That is inshallah going to be starting tonight. And if you haven't registered, you don't need to. It's better to register. If you haven't, you can just show up inshallah and take part in this program. Also, something important that is happening, Muslim Heritage Month. Last April, Governor signed joint resolution designating January of each year to be Muslim Heritage Month. There are many events that are happening across New Jersey. 2 of them are happening here in Franklin Township. One is on January 14th, starting at 5:30 p.m. at the Senior Citizen Center in Somerset. This program, of course, is sold out. Second, again, is happening because of the necessity, just Sunday, January 21st at Doubletree Hotel. Admission is free and open to everyone. There'll be food, Islamic art, and also all the other activities that were seen on the flyer. Inshallah, the flyer was shared through social media. Also, Martin Luther King breakfast will be this Monday, January 15th at Doubletree Hotel. Always there's a participation from Masjid-e-Ali and as well as Sadiq School. So if you're interested, you can see Dr. Kharazi for more details about that. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Hope I didn't miss anything. Let's recite Dua sihat for all of those people who are in need of dua, those who are suffering, struggling, going through a difficult time. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring them out of their difficulty. People of Gaza who are suffering, as well as locally, those who have requested for dua, especially Brother Muhammad Abbas Rizvi. Please keep him in your duas and other individuals. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ 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 وَيَجْعَلُكُمْ خُلَفَاءَ الْأَرْضِ أَإِلَٰهٌ مَّعَ اللَّهِ قَلِيلًا مَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. Allahumma salli. Let's proceed to Salatul Asr. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمد الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر. استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته يقوم ويقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر. استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بحول الله وقوته يقوم ويقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمد الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر.
ملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. تسبيح.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام. وأسأله أن يتوب علي توبة عبد ذليل خاضع فقير باعث مسكين مستكين مستجير لا يملك لنفسه نفعا ولا ضرا ولا موتا ولا حياة ولا نشورا. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من نفس لا تشبع ومن قلب لا يخشى ومن علم لا ينفع ومن صلاة لا ترفع ومن دعاء لا يسمع. اللهم إني أسألك اليسر بعد العسر والفرج بعد الكرب والرخاء بعد الشدة. اللهم ما بنا من نعمة فمنك لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. اللهم صل على